It was a quiet night in the city. The streets were almost empty. Only a few cars passed by under the dim streetlights. In his small rented room, a young man named Daniel sat in front of his old computer. He was tired. His job paid little. His landlord shouted every month for rent, and his friends had started avoiding him because he had nothing exciting in life. Daniel wanted a shortcut. He always dreamed of success, money, and respect. But life had been hard on him. Bills piled up, his fridge was almost empty, and he felt like a failure. He thought maybe anything could change his fate. Scrolling through strange websites, Daniel's eyes stopped on a glowing banner. The screen flickered for a moment. The banner said, "Sign this contract. Get unlimited help. Change your life forever," he frowned. "What is this? Some stupid ad?" he whispered. But something about the ad pulled his attention. It looked different. Not like normal internet scams. The letters almost moved like they were alive. Curious, Daniel clicked on it. The page opened into a black background with golden text. At the top it read, "We offer you a servant. Bound by the contract. He will obey. Sign with trust." Daniel laughed nervously. A servant? What is this nonsense? He thought maybe it was a game or some kind of prank. But the page looked too real. There was no company logo, no ads, just one shining line at the bottom. "Click here to accept. Sign with your full name." His hands shook on the keyboard. Part of him wanted to close the laptop and forget. But another part, the desperate part, kept whispering, "What if it's real? What if this is my chance?" He told himself, it's only a joke. Nothing will happen. Maybe just a virus, but his heart beat faster. He typed slowly, "Daniel Carter." The moment he hit enter, the laptop screen flashed bright white. The room lights flickered as if there was a power surge. Daniel jumped from his chair, his breath heavy. Then everything went silent. He looked around. His room was dark except for the glowing screen. But the words had changed. Now the screen showed only 2 words, "Contract signed." Daniel's throat went dry. Okay, and that was weird. He forced a laugh. Maybe some hacker trick. He was about to shut down the laptop when suddenly, bang! A loud thud shook the walls. His window rattled. A strange wind blew into the room even though the window was closed. Daniel backed up against the wall, his heart racing. And then he saw it. In the center of his room, a tall shape appeared out of thin air. The air bent like heat waves. A blue light formed a human-like figure, but not human at all. It was an alien. The creature stood almost 7 feet tall, skin shining like silver metal under the moonlight. Its eyes glowed bright green. Strange markings ran across its arms, glowing faintly. And then, to Daniel's shock, the alien bent its knee. It bowed. "Master," the alien said in a deep, broken voice, "I am bound to serve you." By contract, Daniel froze. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. His mind raced. This cannot be real. I am dreaming. I am crazy. The alien raised its head slowly, still kneeling. "You called me. You signed. I am yours." Daniel's lips trembled. What are you?" The alien placed a hand on its chest. "Your servant. From the stars. Bound by the ancient rules. I will obey every order you speak. Until the contract ends." The young man's knees almost gave way. He sat down on his bed, trying to breathe. A servant, an alien? This was impossible. But the glowing creature in front of him was real. Daniel whispered to himself, "What have I done?" The alien tilted its head, almost like it could hear his fear. "Do not be afraid. I serve you, but the contract has rules." Dark rules. The words cut through the silence like a knife. Daniel felt his stomach twist. He didn't know what those rules were, but he knew one thing. His life was no longer his own. The computer screen flickered again. Behind the alien, Daniel could see the words glowing on the laptop. "One servant assigned. Contract cannot be undone." The room felt colder. The alien remained kneeling, waiting for its first command. Daniel's hands shook. He wanted to say something, but his tongue felt heavy. This was the beginning of something he could not escape. And deep down, he already knew. This contract was no blessing. It was a curse. The alien did not move. It stayed on one knee, head bowed, glowing eyes staring at the floor. Daniel stood frozen, his back pressed against the wall. His mind screamed at him to run, but his legs felt heavy like stone. Finally, after what felt like hours, Daniel forced himself to speak. His voice was shaky, almost a whisper. Who are you? The alien lifted its head slowly. I am called Varric, it said in a deep, rumbling voice. I come from the worlds beyond your sky. I was bound the moment you signed. Now I belong to you. Daniel blinked, his throat dry. You belong to me? This is insane. I don't even believe in aliens. Varric tilted its head, studying him with glowing green eyes. Believe or not, the contract is sealed. I serve until it ends. The words felt heavy, final, like chains around Daniel's neck. He wanted to laugh, to say this was a dream. But the creature kneeling in his room was too real. Its shining skin, its deep voice, the strange symbols glowing across its arms. Slowly, Daniel stepped closer. His heart pounded in his chest. He waved a hand near the alien's body, half expecting it to vanish like smoke. But no, it was solid, real, alive. Varric raised its head higher now, meeting his eyes. You are my master. Speak your first command. Daniel froze. A command? His mind ran wild. What could he even say? Should he tell it to leave? Should he test if it really obeyed? His lips trembled. Said stand up. The alien obeyed instantly. It rose to its full height, towering over Daniel like a giant. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. The floor creaked under its weight. Daniel stepped back in shock. Oh God. But Varric did not attack. Instead, it bowed its head slightly, waiting. Daniel took a deep breath. He needed to know if this was real. Can you do something? Anything? Varric nodded. It stretched out one long hand toward Daniel's broken lamp on the desk. The wires had been cut weeks ago. Daniel never had money to replace it. The alien's eyes glowed brighter. In seconds, sparks danced around the lamp, and with a flash, the lamp turned on. Daniel's jaw dropped. No way. Varric lowered its hand. I fix. I serve. Daniel stared at the lamp, then at the alien. His fear began to mix with curiosity. So you can really do things for me? Yes, Varric said. Big or small, your words are law. The young man rubbed his face. This was crazy, but a small part of him felt a spark of hope. For the first time in years, maybe his life could change. He tested again. Can you clean this room? Varric lifted both hands. A low hum filled the air. Dust lifted from the floor. Trash bags folded themselves. The broken chair fixed its legs. Within seconds, Daniel's messy room looked brand new. Daniel gasped. This is unreal. The alien's voice was calm. I serve. I obey. For the first time, Daniel smiled. He felt power in his hands, power he never had before. But as he looked at the glowing servant, a small doubt whispered in his head. This is too easy. Too good to be true. Varric suddenly spoke again. But remember, the contract has rules. Dark rules. Daniel's smile faded. Rules? What rules? The alien's eyes glowed brighter, as if warning him. Do not command without care. Words are power. One mistake. And the cost is heavy. Daniel swallowed hard. Cost? What cost? Varric stayed silent, its face unreadable. The room grew colder. The computer screen flickered once more. On the black background, new words appeared in golden letters. Warning. First command given. 3 remained before penalty. Daniel's eyes widened. He stepped closer to the laptop. Penalty? What does that mean? No answer came. Only the faint hum of Varric's presence. The alien spoke again, its voice low, almost sad. Do not waste your orders. Every choice shapes your fate. Daniel shivered. He had thought this was a gift, but now it felt like a trap. A servant, yes, but a servant tied to rules he did not understand. Still, curiosity burned in him. If Varric could fix a lamp, clean a room, maybe it could do more. Maybe money, respect, even power. The temptation was strong. But in the back of his mind, he could not forget those words. Dark rules. Penalty. Daniel sat on his bed, staring at the alien who now stood silently in the corner, waiting like a statue. His life had changed forever, but he didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. And as the night deepened, Daniel had the strange feeling that the real cost of the contract was only beginning to show. The night felt heavy. Daniel could not sleep. He kept staring at the glowing words on his laptop screen. Warning, first command given. 3 remain before penalty. His mind spun in circles. 3 remain, penalty? What does this mean? In the corner of the room, the alien servant Varric stood silently, its tall frame casting long shadows. It did not blink. It did not move. It only waited. Daniel rubbed his face and muttered, This is insane. I didn't even order something big. Just cleaning. Why is there a warning? He grabbed his laptop, scrolling down the page. For the first time, he noticed a hidden section below the golden text. Strange symbols covered the screen. The letters shifted, twisting until slowly they rearranged themselves into English words. At the top it read, "Rules of the Contract." Daniel's heartbeat grew louder. He leaned closer, reading each line carefully. Rule 1. The servant obeys all orders, but every command counts as a mark. 4 marks open the penalty. Rule 2. The master must not give foolish or careless commands. Thoughtless orders bring dangerous results. Rule 3. If trust between master and servant breaks, the roles may reverse. Rule 4. The contract cannot be undone unless broken by its own words. Daniel's throat went dry. His hands trembled on the keyboard. Roles may reverse? He whispered. What the hell does that mean? Varric finally spoke, its deep voice filling the silence. It means if you betray me, if you break the bond, I will not serve. You will. Daniel's blood ran cold. He turned toward the alien. Serve? You mean you'll make me your servant? Varric's glowing eyes locked onto him. Yes, the contract binds both ways. Obey the rules and I serve. Break them and you serve. Daniel sat back hard on his bed, trying to catch his breath. He had thought this was just a tool, a shortcut to make his life easy. But this was dangerous far more than he expected. Still, curiosity clawed at him. He asked, What is the penalty after 4 commands? Varric's eyes dimmed. It is different for every master. Sometimes wealth turns to ashes. Sometimes bodies break. Sometimes souls vanish. Daniel's stomach twisted. He wanted to stop. To shut the laptop, to send Varric away, to pretend this never happened. But the screen burned with one more line at the bottom. The contract cannot be undone. He closed his eyes and cursed under his breath. I've trapped myself. For a long time, silence filled the room. Daniel lay awake, mind restless. Then a thought came. Maybe he could use the contract carefully. Maybe if he was smart, he could get help without danger. After all, Varric had fixed his lamp, cleaned his room. That wasn't so bad. Daniel turned toward the alien again. If I order something small, it still counts? Yes, Varric said. Every command is a step closer to the end, Daniel frowned. So I have to choose wisely. Varric nodded. Think before you speak. Words are not toys. The warning echoed in his mind like thunder. Think before you speak. To test the limit, Daniel tried to be clever. What if I ask you to do something forever? Like clean the room every day without me asking? Varric's eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time Daniel saw anger in its face. No, that is forbidden. Eternal commands bend the contract. If you attempt, the penalty will come at once. Daniel swallowed hard. Okay. I won't. The alien's gaze softened again. Good. You are learning. But Daniel's curiosity wasn't satisfied. He leaned forward, whispering almost to himself. So what happens if I run out of commands? The alien's voice dropped lower, almost like a growl. Then the contract chooses. You may keep what you gained. Or lose everything. That is the risk. A chill went down Daniel's spine. This was no simple game. Every order was a gamble. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. Outside, the wind howled through the streets. Inside, Daniel felt trapped in his own room, with a servant that looked more like a predator waiting to strike. He tried to distract himself. All right, let's test something harmless. Varric tilted its head. Be careful. Daniel thought for a long time, then said slowly, Bring me a glass of water. The alien's hand glowed. In a blink, a clear glass of water appeared on the desk, drops sliding down the sides. Daniel picked it up, staring. It was real, cold, perfect. He took a sip and nearly dropped the glass. The taste was wrong. The water was bitter, metallic, like blood mixed with iron. He spit it out, coughing. What the hell is this? Varric's face remained calm. You asked, I obeyed. But the source is not always clean. Daniel stared at the glass in horror. Inside, he now saw faint red swirls moving in the liquid like it was alive. He quickly threw it into the sink, his stomach churned. Never again. I'll be more careful. I swear. Varric stepped closer, towering over him. Its voice was deep and final. Remember this, Master. Every command carries weight. The rules are not made to serve your comfort. They test your soul. Daniel looked up at the alien, heart pounding. He felt smaller than ever, trapped in a game he never wanted to play. And in that moment he realized the truth. This was not about power. This was a test, and the contract was watching every move he made. The next morning, Daniel woke with heavy eyes. He had barely slept. All night his mind replayed the bitter taste of that strange water. The golden rules on the contract and Varick's warning, the rules test your soul. For a while, Daniel stayed in bed wishing this was all a nightmare. But when he turned his head, there it was. The alien standing silently in the corner, glowing eyes fixed on him. It wasn't a dream. Daniel rubbed his face and groaned. "You're still here?" "Yes," Varick replied in its deep voice. "I stay until the end." Daniel sat up, staring at the strange servant. He felt fear, yes, but also something else, power. This creature obeyed him. This was dangerous, but maybe, just maybe, it could also be useful. He thought about his life. Empty wallet, angry landlord, a job that barely paid enough for food. What if he used the alien carefully? What if he asked for something small but helpful? Temptation whispered in his ear. "All right," Daniel muttered. "Maybe one more command. Something safe." Varick tilted its head. "Be sure," Daniel took a deep breath. "I want money. Just a little. Enough to pay rent?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter. In its hand, a small black box appeared. Varick opened it, revealing neat stacks of cash, perfect bills, fresh and clean. Daniel's eyes widened. His hand shook as he grabbed the money. He counted quickly. "Enough for rent, food, and more. This is real," he whispered. "I'm rich. No, not rich, but free." Varick stood silent, its face unreadable. Daniel laughed nervously. "This changes everything." He rushed out of his apartment later that day, paid his landlord in full, and even bought fresh groceries. For the first time in months, people smiled at him instead of frowning. He felt alive again, but in the back of his mind, the golden letters still burned. 3 remained before penalty. That night, Daniel placed the money carefully in a drawer. He sat on his bed, staring at the alien. "Okay, maybe this isn't so bad. You help me, I live better. Simple." Varick's voice was calm. "Simple things become chains. Be careful." Daniel ignored the warning. He couldn't stop thinking about the power he now held. Why stop at rent? Why not more? The temptation grew. The next day, Daniel tested again. He ordered Varick to fix his old car, rusted and broken in the parking lot. Within minutes, the engine purred like brand new. Daniel drove around the city, smiling for the first time in years. Then he went further. He asked Varick to find him a better job. Within hours, an email appeared with an interview offer at a company that had never even known his name before. It was like magic. Life was finally going his way, but small shadows began to creep in. One evening, as he ate dinner, his phone buzzed with a news alert. A robbery had taken place across town. The thieves had stolen stacks of cash, bills that looked exactly like the ones sitting in his drawer. Daniel froze. He whispered, "No, that can't be." But deep down he knew. The alien had not created money. It had taken it. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Varick, where did that money come from?" The alien's glowing eyes turned toward him. "You asked." I obeyed. Daniel's stomach twisted. "Did you steal it?" Varick's voice was cold. "I do not steal. I only shift. What is yours becomes yours." Daniel pushed his plate away, his appetite gone. He realized now every command had consequences. The contract gave, but it also took. Still, the temptation whispered louder. With every new gift, he felt stronger, more in control. The fear shrank, replaced by hunger for more. He told himself, "I'll be careful. I won't waste commands. I'll use them wisely." But the truth was clear. He was enjoying this too much. One night, Daniel stood at the window, looking out at the glowing city. He whispered, "With you, I could do anything. No more being a loser. No more suffering. I could be someone important." Varick stepped closer, its shadow falling over him. "Yes, you could rise higher than all. But the higher you climb, the harder you fall." Daniel turned to face the alien. "I'm not afraid of falling." The alien's eyes glowed bright green, filling the room with light. "You should be." Suddenly, the laptop on the desk flickered to life. The golden letters returned. 2 remained before penalty. Daniel's chest tightened. He counted in his head: money, car, job. 3 commands. Only 1 left before the unknown punishment. His smile faded. Fear returned, sharper than before. He whispered, "I have to be careful now." One more chance, but temptation was already in his heart, and the contract knew it. Daniel sat on his bed with the laptop glowing beside him. The golden words were still burning on the screen. 2 remain before penalty. His heart pounded. Only 2 commands left. He had thought this contract was a blessing, but now it felt like a ticking clock. Varric stood silently in the corner of the room. Its glowing eyes never blinked. Its tall frame looked calm, almost patient, as if it had seen this situation many times before. Daniel whispered to himself, "This can't go on forever. There has to be a way out." But deep down he already knew the truth. The words on the contract had said it clearly. The contract cannot be undone unless broken by its own words. He didn't understand what that meant. But maybe, just maybe, someone else did. The next day, Daniel took his laptop to a quiet library across town. He didn't want to stay at home with Varric watching every move. He searched the internet for hours, typing ancient contracts, alien servants, mystical pacts. Most of the results were fake stories, myths, or strange forums. But then on a dark web page with no clear owner, he found something chilling. Humans who sign the starbound contract never escape. Their servants obey, until the rules turn. Then the servant takes their place, forever. Daniel's stomach twisted. His worst fear was true. He kept reading. The page listed names of past masters, people who had mysteriously vanished in history. Some were rich men who gained power overnight. Others were poor like him, who suddenly disappeared without trace. All were tied to the same curse. At the bottom of the page, one final line glowed red. The servant does not want to harm you, but the contract decides. Daniel closed the laptop quickly, his hands trembling. That night he sat across from Varric in the small apartment. The alien stood tall, silent as always. Daniel took a deep breath. "I know the truth now." Varric tilted its head. "Truth?" Daniel's voice cracked. "About the contract. About the masters before me. They all died, didn't they?" The alien's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. It did not answer right away. Finally, in a deep voice, it said, "Yes. All masters before you failed." Daniel's chest tightened. "Failed how?" Varric's gaze locked on him. "They gave commands without care. They broke trust. And when the penalty came, the contract claimed them." Daniel swallowed hard. "And you took their place?" The alien's face darkened. For the first time, Daniel saw something like pain in those glowing eyes. "I did not want to, but the contract is stronger than me. I am bound to obey." Silence filled the room. The weight of Varric's words pressed heavy on Daniel's chest. He wasn't just dealing with a servant. He was dealing with a curse older than he could imagine. The days passed quickly. Daniel tried to live normally, but nothing felt normal anymore. Every time he saw the cash in his drawer, every time he drove his fixed car, he remembered. He had only 2 commands left. And then, the penalty. One night, as the clock struck midnight, Daniel heard a low hum from the laptop. He turned to see new golden words flashing across the screen. "Time is running out." His blood went cold. "What does that mean?" Varric stepped closer, its eyes glowing brighter than ever. "It means the contract is preparing. Midnight draws near. The end will come soon." Daniel felt his knees weaken. "The end? You mean my end?" The alien's voice was low. "Unless you outsmart the rules." Daniel looked at him, shocked. "Outsmart? You mean there's a way?" Varric nodded slowly. "The contract is alive. It follows its own words. If you twist the rules, you may survive." Daniel grabbed his head, frustrated. "Twist the rules? How?" "I'm just a man." Varric leaned closer, towering over him. "A clever command can break chains, but only if spoken with care. Only if you risk everything." That night, Daniel fell into a restless sleep. He dreamed of endless chains wrapping around his body, pulling him into a black void. In the shadows, he saw Varric standing over him, not as a servant but as a master. The alien's voice echoed in the darkness. "You had your chance. Now you serve me." Daniel woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. The clock read 3 a.m. Varric was still standing in the corner, silent and watchful. Daniel whispered to himself, "I can't let this happen. I won't end up like the others." But as he stared at the alien servant, he realized something terrifying. Varric wasn't just waiting to serve, it was waiting for the contract to decide. The following evening, the laptop lit up once more. The golden letters shifted, forming new words. One night left. The contract claims what it is owed. Daniel's blood ran cold. He looked at Varric, desperate. Tell me what to do. How do I stop this? The alien's voice was calm but heavy with sorrow. I cannot tell you. I am bound to silence. The master must find the path alone. Daniel slammed his fists on the desk. Then it's a trap. This whole thing was a trap from the start. Varric did not argue. It only bowed its head. Yes, Daniel staggered back, his mind spinning. He had thought this was his way out of misery. But now he saw the truth. He had walked straight into a cage, and the bars were closing fast. As the last hours approached, Daniel knew one thing. If he did not find a way to beat the contract, he would lose more than money. More than freedom. He would lose himself. The night was colder than ever. Daniel sat at his desk, staring at the glowing words on the laptop. One night left. The contract claims what it is owed. Every second felt like a hammer striking his chest. His hands shook. His mind screamed. He had only one command left before the penalty. One chance. In the corner, Varric stood silent as always. The tall alien's green eyes glowed in the dark room. It looked calm, but there was something different tonight. Its body trembled slightly, as if it was fighting against invisible chains. Daniel turned toward him. You know what's going to happen, don't you? Varric's deep voice rumbled. Yes, Daniel's throat tightened. Tell me. The alien shook its head. I cannot. The contract binds me. If I warn you, I break trust. If I break trust, the roles reverse now. Daniel's fists clenched. Then I'm doomed. This whole thing was made to destroy me. Varric's glowing eyes softened. Not destroy, test, always a test. The clock ticked toward midnight. Each second echoed louder in Daniel's ears. He paced back and forth in the room, sweat dripping down his forehead. The laptop flickered again. New golden words spread across the screen. Final command required. Speak wisely, or be claimed. Daniel froze. This was it. His last chance. He looked at Varric, desperation in his eyes. If I give a command, the contract ends. If I don't, it still ends. I can't win. Varric stepped closer, towering over him. Win or lose is not the question. The words you choose decide your fate. Daniel sat back on the bed, his head in his hands. He whispered to himself, I can't ask for money. I can't ask for power. Every gift is a curse. What do I say? The clock ticked louder. 10 p.m., 1 minute left. Varric's voice rumbled again. Master, time is almost gone. Speak. Daniel's breath came fast. He thought of every mistake he had made. The money stolen, the bitter water, the warnings. He thought of the contract's words. Twist the rules. Outsmart it. Then, like lightning, an idea struck him. He stood up, eyes burning with determination. I know what to say. Varric's eyes widened. For the first time, the alien looked nervous. Be certain. Once spoken, it cannot be taken back. Daniel nodded, his voice shaking but strong. I command you to serve me by ending this contract forever. The room exploded in light. The laptop screen cracked, sparks flying. The golden letters twisted wildly, fighting against his words. Varric roared, clutching his chest as glowing chains wrapped around his body. His green eyes flashed with pain. Your words. They twist the core. You force me against the law. Daniel shouted over the chaos. The contract said you serve me until the end, so serve me by destroying it. The air shook like thunder. The walls cracked. Daniel fell to his knees as the pressure grew heavier. The contract screamed through the laptop in burning letters. Not valid, not possible, not allowed. Daniel clenched his fists. You said the contract can be broken by its own words. And its words said you serve me, so obey. Varric screamed, half in agony, half in rage. His body glowed brighter, chains snapping one by one. Your logic is stronger than the law. The last chain shattered. A shockwave blasted through the room, throwing Daniel back against the wall. When the light faded, Daniel opened his eyes. The laptop was gone, burned to ash. The golden words had vanished. Varric stood in the center of the room, breathing heavily. His glowing eyes were dim, almost human. He looked weaker, but also freer. Daniel pulled himself up, coughing. Did it work? Varric's voice was low, almost a whisper. Yes, the contract is broken. Daniel let out a shaky laugh. He had done it. He had twisted the rules. He had won. But then Varrock stepped closer, his shadow falling across Daniel's face. The alien's voice grew darker. But remember, a servant bound is safe. A servant free chooses his own path. Daniel froze. His heart dropped. What do you mean? Varrock's glowing eyes flickered like fire. I am no longer bound to serve you. I am free to decide what to do with you. Daniel stumbled back, terror filling his chest. He had broken the contract, yes, but in doing so he had released Varrock completely. And now? The alien was no servant. The clock struck midnight. Varrock stood tall, glowing brighter than ever. For a long moment it only stared at Daniel, as if weighing a choice. Daniel's voice cracked. Please don't. The alien's mouth curled into something like a smile. You are clever, Daniel. Clever enough to survive. For now. And with that, Varrock vanished into a flash of light, leaving Daniel alone in the silent, broken room. Daniel dropped to his knees, shaking. He had escaped the penalty. He had broken the rules. But as he stared into the empty corner where Varrock once stood, one thought consumed him. The room was silent. Ashes from the burned laptop floated in the air like black snow. Daniel sat on the floor, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Varrock was gone. For the first time in days, there was no towering alien figure watching him. No glowing eyes in the corner. No deep voice echoing in his head. The contract was broken, or so he thought. Daniel stood up slowly, his legs shaking. The room looked strange now. The walls had cracks from the shockwave. The lamp flickered weakly. The air still carried the sharp scent of smoke, but he felt free. For the first time, truly free. He laughed nervously. I did it. I beat the contract. I survived. His laughter died quickly. Something still felt wrong. Over the next week, Daniel tried to return to normal life. He went back to work using his newly repaired car. He paid his bills with the leftover money. He smiled at people in the street. On the surface, everything was fine, but deep inside he felt a shadow watching him. At night, he would wake up sweating, certain that someone was standing in the corner of his room. But when he turned on the light, nothing. Sometimes, when he looked in the mirror, he swore his reflection's eyes glowed faint green. But when he blinked, they were normal again. Daniel told himself he was imagining things. Just stress, just leftover fear. But the truth was darker. One evening, Daniel sat at his desk writing notes for his new job. The room was quiet, only the sound of his pen scratching paper. Then he heard it. A whisper. At first it was faint, like the wind. But slowly it grew clearer. Master. Daniel froze. His pen dropped to the floor. He turned slowly toward the corner of the room. Empty. His breath quickened. No, you're gone. You're free, but the whisper came again, louder this time. The contract never ends. Daniel clutched his head. No, I ended it. I broke it. The whisper laughed softly inside his mind. You freed me. But freedom is not escape. Freedom is choice. And my choice is you. His heart raced. What do you want from me? Silence, then the lamp flickered once more. For a split second, Daniel swore he saw Varrock's shadow on the wall, tall, sharp, glowing eyes staring at him. But when he blinked, the shadow was gone. The next morning, Daniel washed his face in the bathroom. As the water dripped down his skin, he lifted his head and looked into the mirror, and froze. On his neck, just below the skin, glowing faintly, was a mark. A small golden symbol, the same kind he had seen on Varrock's arms. Daniel stumbled back. No, 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 no! He rubbed the mark, but it didn't fade. It pulsed with every beat of his heart. The whisper returned in his mind. You broke the contract, but you cannot break the bond. Daniel screamed, smashing the mirror with his fist. Shards fell into the sink, blood dripping from his hand. But when he looked again, the glowing mark still burned on his skin. That night, Daniel sat alone in the dark, holding his injured hand. He finally understood he had thought he won. He had thought twisting the rules freed him. But in truth, he had only changed the shape of the prison. The contract was gone, but the bond remained. Varrock was free to choose, and it had chosen him. The whisper spoke again, softer now, almost gentle. You are not my master anymore. You are my equal, my vessel, my mirror. Daniel's eyes widened. Your vessel? Suddenly his reflection in the window shifted. It smiled while he did not. Its eyes glowed green. Daniel fell to the floor, clutching his head. His voice cracked. "No, get out of me." But the whisper only laughed. The contract never ends. It only changes form. Days later, Daniel's neighbors noticed something strange. He no longer came out during the day. At night, strange lights flickered from his apartment window. Sometimes, they swore they heard two voices inside, one human, one inhuman, speaking together as if becoming one. One evening, a delivery man knocked on Daniel's door. The door creaked open slightly. Daniel stood there, smiling politely. But his eyes glowed bright green. The delivery man froze. Your order?" Daniel tilted his head the same way Varric used to. His voice was calm but carried a strange echo. "Thank you. I'll take it." The door shut, and behind it laughter filled the room, deep, echoing, not quite human. The legend was true. The contract never ended. It only passed on, and Daniel was no longer just Daniel. He was something more, something alien, something waiting.